Hey folks, John here, Old Hickory Forge. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. So, what's going on today? I'm out here in the workshop and we're getting moving on a pretty cool project for the Patreon supporters. We're going to be taking some shop trash and we're going to make up a nice little batch of axes. So if you want to check it out, stick around. So what we got here to start with is some 2-inch round mild steel from the Great Blade Show Blunder of 2022. If you weren't around the channel or didn't follow me on Instagram whenever that happened, basically for Blade Show every year I make up a big batch of about 150 hammers or so. And in 2022, I did all my forging and went to do all my grinding and heat treating and finish work and whatnot, and found out that I'd been sent several batches of mild steel instead of tool steel, so none of it was any good. Some people bought them as soft face hammers, but a lot of them just kind of had to be thrown out, so I have an abundance of 2-inch round mild steel that's not good for much else. And what I got here is scrap 1-inch round 4140. Whenever I make my hammer eye drifts, I buy it in 4-foot sections, and whenever I get to the end of the bar, there's always about 6 inches, and it's good steel, so I don't like to throw it away. It's useful for making punches, chisels, hand tooling and stuff like that, but it piles up a lot faster than I can use it. Sometimes I give it away. But anyway, we're going to square these guys up into the bodies of some axes. We'll flatten this out into some flat bar to forge weld that in for the bit. Hopefully make something cool. Our mild steel billets that are going to become the bodies of the axes, we have them squared up. They're about 1.25 inches wide, about 2 inches tall, and about 4 inches long. Our scrap 4140 we've drawn out into a 1/4 inch by about 1.25 inch bar stock. I don't know how long it is, but I can tell by looking at it. We got plenty of material there. So next thing we'll do is start punching some eyes and forging some axes. Nothing to it, really. Pretty much the same idea as punching a hole by hand. You go most of the way through, turn it over, and you punch out a nice clean hole. Nothing to it really. I do need to make a new punching die specifically for doing hatchets and small axes. The one I got, I made it years and years ago for something else, and it works, but it's really not ideal. You see the starting dimensions are just a little too small for the drift, so you really got to bang it in there to get it started. But the next step is to go ahead and start drifting out, shaping the eye, and to start spreading out the lugs of the axe. Nothing to it, really. Now that the drift is good and established, we're going to start spreading out what's going to become the lugs of the axe. This step can take quite a while because when the lugs get really thin, they lose heat really fast. As you can see, I've switched to using a pair of tongs to hold the end of the drift because the handle's too short, like I talked about. The ambient heat really hurts your hand, so, we're moving along slowly but surely. Before we move on to the next step in the forging, I've gone ahead and done some preliminary cleanup work on the grinder, cut off the top lugs, made that nice and flat, and just kind of dressed up the profile a little bit just to save us some time with the forging. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take what's going to become our bit steel and forge down one side like we're doing a knife bevel, so it's got sort of a wedge-shaped cross section. That way, whenever we forge these blades and split them open, it'll sit right in there. Nothing to it, really. So at this point, all the rough forging is done. You know, we got the mild steel axe bodies roughed out. We got our 4140 tool steel that's going to become the bit, tapered out, roughed out, and all that jazz. Next step is to go ahead and clean all this scale off because we don't want that in our forge weld. And then we'll come into the ends of our axe bodies with a cutting disc and split us a nice deep channel so this can fit back into there. And then we'll forge weld those bad boys together and we'll have an axe with a good hardenable steel edge. You know, you get the drill. Alright, so we got all of our slots cut into our axe heads. We got our 4140 tool steel for the cutting edges cleaned up, tapered down. It's looking pretty good. So the next step is to go ahead and heat these guys up, come in here with the hot cut and split this open, throw a little bit of flux in there, install the bit steel, and then go ahead and forge weld those suckers together, and we'll have some axes, boys. Alright, so the forge welding and the finish forging is done. As you can see, we did have one casualty. What happened with this one, I was starting my cuts for the bit with the angle grinder and then doing the bulk of the cutting with my bandsaw. And my cut just got a little bit off center, and I thought that once I got the bit in there and started forge welding everything, it would kind of fix itself. But as I started splitting it open, it kind of just came apart. So that one's getting tossed. But the next step is to go ahead and roughly profile these on the grinder and bring them to their final shape, as well as refine the taper. This one here came out pretty good. You know, we've got a nice consistent taper all the way from the eye to the cutting edge. These two aren't so great, so we're going to have to go in there and clean up the sides of the axe on the grinder, as well as remove the marks from the power hammer and all that. You know, if I was a better axe maker, I could have forged these much closer to finish. And if you want to see someone who really knows what they're doing, I'm going to leave a link to a channel down in the description below. A gentleman by the name of, I'm going to do my best here, Niels Ögren. He's a gentleman over in Sweden, excellent axe maker, nice dude. He was kind enough to send me a voice recording of how to correctly pronounce his name, so I wouldn't sound any more stupid than I normally do. But anyway, let's get moving. So, next step is to go ahead and normalize these axes a few times. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take the block brush to them and kind of scrub some of the scale off. And what this will do is kind of smooth up the surface finish and bring it kind of to a nice soft black whenever they're done, as well as help remove the marks from the center. You know, nothing to it really. And we'll go ahead and get our touch mark on the ball. Actually not using the normal Parks 50 oil that I use. In this white can, what I have is an oil called Parks AAA. It's a slightly slower quenching oil, which is better for highly alloyed steels like 01, 5160, and 4140, which is what the cutting bits of these axes are made of, so it's the correct oil to use for this particular steel. After quenching, the next step is to temper the axe heads, and we're going to be doing that using the forge. So what I've done is gone ahead and roughed in what's going to become the cutting edge using the grinder. But in doing so, we found a bad weld on this guy, so it's getting tossed. You know, these two are fine. So we'll just temper these guys and get ready to make some handles. To temper the axe heads, we have the poles just sitting barely inside the forge, and we're going to let the heat bleed in nice and slow. Whenever the cutting edge comes to a nice dark straw color or so, we'll go ahead and quench it in the oil again to arrest the temper and stop the softening process. But that's really all there is to it. So about something like this, you know, a dark straw on your cutting edge is kind of what you're looking for. But anyway, that's that. So let's go ahead and get these guys sharpened up and go ahead and make some handles. All right, we got these guys nice and sharp. You know, an axe head isn't the easiest thing to cut paper with, but you get the idea. So next step, let's go ahead and make some handles. To make our handles, we got this pretty masculine piece of ash, and I'm basically just going to be following the shape of my beloved Gransfors Brooks axe. So we'll get it traced out, cut out, shaped out. You get the idea. So we got our blanks cut out on the table saw. I went ahead and thinned them down a little bit too. This is 8/4 ash, so it's way thicker than I need it to be. And we can use the rest of it for making the wedges. I got the idea for using the jigsaw to kind of rough out the shape of the handle. A woodworking bandsaw really would be the best thing to do. This would be a lot faster and safer. You know, honestly, I'm more afraid of the table saw than I am just about any tool in the shop. But with how long this is taking, it's just going to be quicker to go at it with a good sharp 36 grit on the grinder and haul all that off there. So now that the handles are roughed out, the next step is to go ahead and get the axe head fit up and everything. So we just drive it on there as best we can, and we'll just kind of mark where this is. Usually you can tell by the way it bites into the wood. And then just remove a little bit at a time and keep hanging it until it goes down where you want it to be. A tool I've grown fond of for doing this is an orbital palm sander. You can do it with the 2x72, but it's pretty easy to take too much, and I have screwed up a few handles and had to start over. You can also use a hand tool like a wood rasp and sandpaper if you want to, but I like this. You see what I mean? You can tell pretty easily where it is the head's contacting and where you need to remove material. So we'll just take our sander and go a little bit at a time. And after we've taken a little bit off, we'll just give it another go. Now you see now we're a little bit further up. This process is called hanging the head if you don't know what it is, but it's a lot of just taking the head off and putting it on and checking and rechecking and this and that, but you get the idea. All right, so we got the head seated on the handles where they're going to go. The next step is to go ahead and finish out the handles. We can use the orbital sander to kind of get a head start on knocking down all the high spots, but we're still going to have to do quite a bit of hand sanding to get a nice finish. Also, both of these heads accidentally got dropped on the concrete during the fit up process, so they're going to need to be resharpened. So it might be prudent to not sharpen them until you've actually made the heads, but it's also kind of a double-edged sword, because if there's flaws in the forge weld, you're not going to find them until you go to sharpen it. So, you know, you might make a handle and then find out your forge weld's no good. So you just got to kind of pick your poison. But anyway, we'll keep moving. A little bit of boiled linseed oil. And we got our wedge with a little bit of wood glue. Alright, so after all that, we got two real nice looking axes. Kind of a shame we set out to make 4 and then only ended up with 2, but you know, that's just how things go sometimes when it comes to blacksmithing. A lot of times when things go wrong, there's really no way to fix it, and you just gotta kind of throw it out and start over. And also, this is a process and a forge weld that I'm pretty out of practice with. It'd be something I need to do a lot more of before I could really pull off, you know, consistently and reliably. But all that being said, let's find some new homes for these babies. So if you're new to the channel and you don't know, I do have a Patreon where you can support the channel for as little as $1 a month. You know, you can give as much or as little as you want. All that being said, I am not a professional content creator, and I don't put as much time and energy into that platform as I probably should. What I tell people is that I am not a YouTube blacksmith. I am a blacksmith who makes YouTube videos, so things like getting orders out the door, keeping the shop running, things like that is kind of, you know, my first priority, and YouTube comes after that. So a lot of the times video and content creation kind of goes off by the wayside. So if you've been around the channel, you know that I do tend to come in pretty late with my giveaways. Like I said, I'm supposed to do them every quarter, but the last one that I actually sent out was December of 2022. So we're 6 months behind and September is coming up. Full disclosure, September is probably going to be late because there's a few videos that need to be made in the next month. But anyway, we got 2 axes, we got giveaways that are due for March and June, so let's go ahead and get them some winners. So if you've been around, you know how I handle my giveaways. The names of all the Patreon supporters are right here on my trusty wheelofnames.com. So we will just click to spin. Shanna Cothran. So axe number 1 is yours. So let's go ahead and take your name off the list and pick the second winner. Don Temple. So that's all I got for you. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something. Winners for the Patreon giveaways, just go ahead and get in touch with me via email. My email will be in the description box below as well as the pinned comment. Or you can message me on Instagram if you follow me. If you're not following me on Instagram, you really should be. I'm much more active on there than I am on YouTube. So if you want to stay up to date with the day-to-day goings-on here at the shop, that's the best place to do it. And as always, we're sponsored by Lazy K Knife Supply. Here's a pretty sweet block of some stabilized burl wood and resin they sent me not too long ago. So if you want to get, top shelf handle material at a reasonable price from a family-owned, American-owned business, there's going to be some discount codes down in the description below. But that's all I got for you, and y'all take care.